with us. So we have Miriam Garduno as special guest, and today also as a presenter, Estrella Luna. Me, myself, that you don't see in the image, my name is Liliana Domingues. I'm the host for today. I'm the founder and general manager of Amar na Vida. So that's why we are here today to welcome you. Today we go through our agenda for this TED Talk. We are doing this welcome today. We're going to show you a little bit introduction regarding the Marna Vida, what it is, and then we'll go through the theme that brought us here. And of course, you can do your comments during the session. We would love to hear about your comments and suggestions. Estrella is also going to be looking at your comments and questions. And at the end, specifically, we will answer your questions and doubts. So sit to join us, and we'll start. So just to introduce a little bit, Amarna Vida is our organization that works in three main areas. The main one that brought us here is Amarna Academy, which has as mission to make the difference by educating, nourishing, and empowering people to be healthier, more balanced, resilient, and conscious. So this is the main focus of Amarna Academy. But we also act on organizations and communities with the sense to bring more consciousness and regenerative principles to this kind of to organizations and communities. So without further ado, I will present Estrella today. Estrella is very passionate about young people issues. She's a doctor right now on technology, media, and young people, the connection between them. She also has some degree on art and the relation with media. So I will give the word to Estrella today. So welcome, Estrella, for being joining us today and to talk a little bit more about yourself, and afterwards presenting Miriam. So welcome to both of you. Thank you for being here, and have a nice session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liliana, and thank you everybody to be here with us today. I've been working with the young people from since some years before with art, technology, and education in different sectors and vulnerable sectors. And suddenly, like 2 years more or less, or 3 years before, I met Miriam in Portugal, two Mexicans in Portugal, and regarding about one TikTok that we made before about all with Luis, about all the plants and everything, and in that period she was planting the chiles, like the Mexican chile. So that was a point of connection between us, and also because I'm going to read something about she has more than 8 years of experience working with adolescents. She worked 6 years in psychological control with adolescents and his family in prisons. I don't know, but at least in Mexico, there exist prisons for young people. So she worked with them and their families. Also, she collaborated with NGOs to control community programs in support to women in situation violence, sex education for teenagers, community libraries, the creation of community libraries, and the interventions with gangs. So, since we met, we have a lot of common in our work, both of we have been working with young people in vulnerable sectors or in with a lot of problems with violence and also with the social and economical difficulties. So since we met before, we saw that we wanted to do these real social integrations since our professional background. So, well, that's why I invite to Miriam to talk today about this topic that is really important nowadays. So, go ahead, Miriam. You can start, and also we invite to all the people that is here with us to put questions or any idea or any comment that do you want to share with us to put it on the comments, and then at the end we are going to share and discuss about this. So thank you both of you and everybody, and you can continue, Miriam.
Thank you, Estrella. Hi, everyone. Good morning. And thank you very much for the invitation, Amarna, Liliana, and Estrella. And I would like to begin the topic with a definition of crisis. Yes? It's very important to know what it's a crisis and its characteristics for to be able to know what is happening with us. And a crisis is a period of time in which the person is unstable and at the same time offers an opportunity to reset to a new level of ground, or it can be affect the development of the person. Crises have very specific characteristics. One of them is that the crisis it comes up only once in our lives. Doesn't exist similar crisis, okay? Another characteristic is that the crisis comes suddenly. We don't expect the situation. And finally, the crisis is a personal confrontation. Okay? And now that we know what is a crisis and what is the characteristics, I would like to ask the audience and you, Estrella, if have you ever been through a crisis? How was your experience? You can write in the chat your experience, or Estrella, you can tell me something that you about your experience.
Well, now that you are asking, for example, when I was between child and when I was in adolescence, I remember that my parents take me away from one school and I get to another one. And for me, that year was really difficult. Like I didn't like the people, I didn't like the professors, I didn't like the context that we were. So for me, that period was so difficult, and I remember now. So I can remember that was a really shock period. So I can remember that now. In the professional way, for example, I can say that the people that works with young people, we really note, we realize when somebody with some young people is not in a good way. We don't know if he's in a crisis or has another type of problem, but it's really clear when they are in something different, something wrong, something's going on wrong. So you can see that really clear. So I can share that the people work with young people has this open view about what's going on.
Yes, exactly. We all know someone who's been through a crisis, or we have been through a crisis. For this reason, it's very important to focus on young people. And I would like to show you some statistics about life satisfaction and feelings, or loneliness and depression. This information were retrieved from the European Life Satisfaction Survey. As we can see, there is a significant 1.2 difference in 4 years with respect to life satisfaction of young people between the age of 18 and 34. In the next slide, shows a 5% difference between young people and adults about feelings of loneliness and depression. This information can put us to think about why young people may have more difficulty to solving crises. And in fact, there are multiple reasons. And in order to understand, we need to know that, for example, children have parents, professors, caregivers, and a support that they depend on. In other way, adults have already solved several crises and they are autonomous and independent. However, young people, unlike children and adults, go through a stage of human development with many achievements and changes. It is very important to pay attention about all the changes and challenges that young people have in this stage.
Miriam, I want to add something. You can put the slide before about the numbers. Yeah. Because seeing this, well, when I watch this kind of numbers, I can see that normally we thought that, yes, the young people, for example, with the technology, they put like photographs that videos on Instagram, on Facebook, and they are showing that everything's okay. But the reality is that it's not true. And we can see that in the numbers. And also, I want to mention that, for example, now, like you mentioned, like the young people nowadays, we live in a difficult context. Why? Because in the past, well, the people study and then they work and they have family and they have a pension and everything was clear. Everything has a rule, like a kind of a way to say it. But now everything is unstable. Everything, the work is unstable. We don't like the young people, and I can say we because we still there. The world is changing, and all the crises that are happening, the economic and social crisis, and also now with the coronavirus, is really clear that in a lot of news are showing that a lot of young people has well, there are a lot of suicide about with young people with this problem. So that's why also is we are talking about this topic. It's important to show all this problem, and not only is the problem about the context also. So yes, I want to mention this, Miriam.
Yes, it can be very difficult for them. And referring to these points, some of the most important changes in young development are physical, which have to do with their brain ground planning and cognitive process. And another change that is very important is the emotional and personality aspect. Young people are looking for reference patterns to realize their personality. And with this comes the social interaction, where they will learn how to relate in different environments or situations. So we must keep in mind as parents, teachers, and friends the change that come with moving through adolescence into adulthood. Yeah. And another important aspect is to know why a crisis is generated or what can cause a crisis. And first, we have distinguished that there are two types of stressful situations. And exist an internal situations that are inherent to the human development and the external over which we have no control. And some examples could be natural disasters, which we cannot control about that. Family, school problems, or problems with friends. This can be any type of situations that disturbs our daily lives of the young people. Problems about sexuality. Let's all remember that the adolescent stage is accompanied by biological changes and recognition about sexual identity. Another situation that can happen on digital platforms or social networks, such as sexting, sextortion, cyberbullying, happy slapping, grooming, etc. Any kind of violent situations that young people are experiencing can trigger a crisis too. And finally, the use of psychoactive substances can be a symptom of the problem or that triggers a crisis, okay? And talking about the symptoms, that symptoms can occur in a crisis, but it's important to know that a person may not necessarily manifest all the symptoms. And some symptoms can be feelings about anger, irritation, or moodiness, stress, insomnia, loss of appetite, disinterest in activities, tiredness, anxiety, tunnel vision, obsession, and unstable thinking. About the tunnel vision refers to the tendency to focus exclusively on a single or limited point of view. Okay? And
Sorry, Miriam, I just want to question something about like I can see the list, and I have a doubt about the depression. The depression is a consequence of the crisis, or the crisis is a consequence of depression. Or why is not the depression here? Because nowadays it's like a really common, or maybe it's a bad way to use the words. Like, well, I am depression. It's like I'm sad. So what is going on with depression in comparison to crisis?
this is a good question because sometimes the people is confused about this expression. The depression can be a symptom or also what triggers the crisis. It depends on each problem, each person, but it doesn't necessarily have to manifest in a crisis. Okay? To continue, when we like a crisis, we go through some stage before solving the crisis. And it's very important to know that although in theory this stage exists, it doesn't mean that we shall leave them in this way, okay? Because each person is different. And the stage are the first is deny the problem. We don't accept at the first time that we have a problem. We can believe that it happened to us. And the second stage is the acceptance of the crisis, understand that we have a problem. Later, we suffer a disorganization of thought as our mind tries to calm down us, but in parallel bring instability because of the problem. Then comes the solution. It means to be able to find an alternative to the problem. And finally, we overcome the crisis and we remain with learnings and tools for from future crises, okay?
Here, Miriam, sorry again to ask.
Yes.
I have a lot of questions, but now that we are discussing about stage of a crisis, there exists a kind of duration of a crisis. something like that. It's like the people that takes 3 to 1 year. I don't know. The exists something like this?
Not really. It doesn't exist a definite time. It depends again on each person and the problem because each person resolve and overcome the crisis in different way. Okay, so it's very important to know this. And for continue, another important, very important part of the crisis solution is to have a support net to help us to overcome the problem. And this support net can be family and friends, or partner, psychologist support, or go to support institutions. And finally, looking for a support in our community. It's looking for activities, the people that can help us to overcome a crisis. For example, I don't know, sports teams, groups with your spiritual beliefs, and art groups. I don't know. In the community, it's very, very important for to overcome the crisis. And well, to finish, or yeah, we have to know how we can help from the roles that we develop when we are in contact with young people, big parents, teachers, or friends. Um, you don't need to be a health mental professional to provide initial support to the young people. It's very important that we can approach the young people with actively listening to them, how they feel, how they perceive the problem without making a judgment. This is very, very, very important because if we make a judgment, it's very likely that the young people will activate some defense mechanisms and the communication will end. Okay? We must also offer real solutions. We cannot promise that a problem will be solved easily if we are not sure about that or that it will happen. Okay? This is very, very important. And let us be active agents. Let us participate and let us be interested in helping. Okay? And finally, if it's necessary, let's looking for professional help to avoid cases of suicide that you're talking about, Estrella. How if the young people tells us explicitly that he or she has thought of getting hurt or that he or she doesn't want to live, it's very, very important to find professional help, okay? Very, very important. Um, and to close the topic, the subject, it's important to remember some points. Yeah, we all go through crisis in our lives. Doesn't exist human that doesn't have crisis in his life. Asking for help doesn't make us weaker or incompetent with our lives. In fact, it's the opposite. We can equip ourselves with new knowledge. And all the crises have solution, option, even the death of someone close to you. Exists the grief therapy for the losers. And by resolving our crisis, we gain self-confidence, autonomy, and knowledge for to know solve the future crisis of problems. It's very important. And finally, the crises are opportunities for self-regeneration, to evolve from ourselves, okay? So it's very important to know all these things for to help or support the young people around us or in our jobs or in our house, okay? And if you have some questions or doubts about the subject, I don't know, Estrella, if...
Yes, I wanted to add something. Well, it's important that these points that you mentioned at the end, like you can go in the last, please.
Yes. Okay.
That one. Yes, because I think it's important to reflect, to have a reflection about this. Like everybody had been like in a crisis, so it's important. Like now, maybe the people think that that kind of thing doesn't happen with them, but is real. It's really happening. And also, it's like about the you mentioned. Crises are opportunities for self-regeneration, and I think that we have to change the way to see the things. In this case, change the way to see the crisis, and the crisis can be an opportunity of change, like you mentioned at the beginning. We can have a self-regeneration. It's like not everything is in a negative way. We can see the opposite way, like to go out from the crisis, we have to make a difference or different way to manage the problem or to manage the crisis. So it's a regeneration of the situation and the human being too. And also, I want to add that, for example, since our work, you like director of community programs with people in the vulnerable sectors or with a lot of uh, violence and problems and economic and social problems too. Um, we want to create like they develop their own abilities in their life. We at least in our work and the things that we have been talking before about our professional way to work with them. It's like to us, how can us yes, how can we can give them the strategies, the necessary strategies to develop their abilities. Maybe like you mentioned before, like making hip hop or making I don't know another like a football team or I don't know any kind of actions or activities that are involved or they want to be involved. Well, anyway, we have some questions here. Um, Luis is asking, like, are there studies that show that more young people are feeling depressed because of the coronavirus? Well, I put here an interesting article that there are a lot of studies. This is one. There are another that exactly is happening now. We are living in a crisis that you mentioned, like external crisis, and they can be like a big problem with depression and also with suicide. I don't know do you want to mention something about this, Miriam?
Yes, only that it's very, this information is on, I don't remember, but I think was made in April of this year. And it's very important to know this information because, like I said, many times or a lot of times we think about the young people have a lot or many things or many tools to resolve, no? And the adults or the teachers or the parents thinking, but how it's possible that the young people doesn't know how to resolve or how to know they have a crisis? But it happens. It happens. They doesn't know how. They don't have the tools, the abilities, the knowledge to overcome a crisis. So I think it's really important to know all this information to help them.
Exactly. Thanks, Miriam. We have another question. What about this? Personal responsibility is often based on the ability to relate emotionally to other human beings, their hopes and fears, their pain and suffering. And the question is, are young people less able to feel responsibility, to feel pride for the sacrifice of some of their whims for I'm sorry, for a greater common goal? What do you think about this, Miriam? About yes.
No, no, I ask if you can repeat the question.
Yes, here is. Are young people less able to feel responsibility, to feel pride for the sacrifice of some of their whims for a greater common goal? It's like about uh, how the young people feel responsible about all this sense emotionally in the emotional way, like they really feel this responsibility to manage.
It's difficult to talk about it because some cultures or some countries, the stage of adolescence doesn't exist, for example. And many times we ask for the adolescents to respond like an adult, but at the same time, we said to the people, the young people, you don't an adult. So it's a stage or it's a emotional stage that the young people ask them, but how I need to respond with my responsibilities, my feelings, my challenges in this period. So, for to answer the question is, I don't know how to explain the difficult for the young people, because we need to understand the stage and the changes in their minds, in their bodies, in their uh, environment, in the context for them. So sometimes it's very difficult for them to overcome some situations, to be responsible for their actions or feelings. I don't know if I understand.
Yes, no, yes, and also when as you mentioned this is about, and we talk about in another TikToks before, like the people say to the young people, no, you must to act like an adult, or you must to say what are you feeling, but or what are you doing, but this is like a chaos inside of them.
Yes.
Well, I am not a child, like you said before. I am not a child. I am not an adult. I am in the middle. That I don't know what I am. I don't know what I am feeling because I have a lot of emotions at the same time. So it's like, well, it's a kind of responsibility, but it's like it's difficult, like you mentioned, socially and all these steps. We have another question. And is unfair to ask only about young people. Do we adults feel that sense of responsibility? Can it help us cope with this crisis? He is well, in the way that see the responsibility with adults. I think that we have to be more conscious about the situation. I don't know. What do you think?
Yes, like adults, the first thing that I believe is very important if we are again parents, teachers, or uh, yes, we need to know what happened with the young people. Yes, in the changes, physical, emotional, social. It's very important to know or or the I don't know how to say. Yes, it's very important to know the changes about the young people, because with this information we can do things, or yes, interventions, better interventions for to help the young people. And many times it's difficult, depends on the culture and the social situation, and a lot of things, a lot of issues could be involved in the problem of with the young people. But like adults, we have a responsibility to know what happened with the young people, and know the minimal information, or have the minimal information to respond to the problems with the.
And for example, here there is another question. Can I, what can I do if I feel like I'm going through a crisis and my family doesn't show support? It's like it's common this
Can you repeat, because the
when
sound is cut?
somebody is in this situation. See, sorry, no, is somebody asks, what can I do if I feel like I'm going through a crisis and my family doesn't show support? It's like if the family doesn't help to them, it's like, no, you are crazy,
Yes, yes.
you are in something wrong, so you
Yes.
resolve yourself. So what they can do?
One of the big problems in these days is like the people, and we don't have a lot of information for the mental health. So a lot of times when we're talking about psychology, psychiatrics, problems, crises, the first thing that we do is no, doesn't exist, it's not real, it's not happen. And this is a big problem, because if we don't used to help and hear the people, we have problems with the young people. In this case, and the question, if the family it doesn't a good support or help for she or he, it's very important to looking for other support. Like we said, maybe an institution or some groups in your community, or some activities. You're talking about the graffiti, hip hop, art, sports, or maybe I don't know, could be looking for a psychology to exist another kinds. Also, the friends are a good support to that we ask for help. So this is the
And
answer.
for example, which kind of, well, you mentioned before, like, well, they can ask help to their friends, I don't know, like maybe their partners, or which another people they can ask for help, or if it's not a professional help or support, what they can do.
Okay, it's very important to communicate. It's very, very important communicate the problem and share what I feel, what they feel. This is very important. And with this part to communicate the problem, at, at the same time, it's very important to do something, some activity, like you are interested. Maybe you like to walk in the nature, or drawing, or I don't know. All of us, we have a specific activity to we like to do. So it's very important to, the first time is communicate the problem with friends, with family, with someone, with my teacher, with, I don't know, with someone. It's very important, because if we don't communicate, we have with all the feelings, the emotions, the problem, the chaos, the all. So the first thing I recommend, communicate with someone, and anybody. And the second is to continue doing activities that we like.
No, yes, it's important to reflect about the communication, because a lot of young people, not only young people, the people has this problem of communication. How to communicate, how to show, how to. So that's why it's important that at least the caregivers, the people that has the friends, that some like you mentioned, is to see what is going on, like to see if something is changing with the young people. And for example, there is a interesting question about the depression. Can you, Luis says, Miriam, can you comment on the relationship between personal responsibility and depression? Does a responsible person feel more pressure, more comfort in the justification of of their choices, or are they completely related in the way to support somebody that is on depression, or to say, well, we are here, or which kind of support or from um, responsibility, personal responsibility and depression.
About depression, it's very important. It could be a big problem if we don't looking for help. But in these days, the word depression and the phenomenon, um, it's very important to going with a specialist of health mental specialists for a diagnosis, because we don't know, we don't have the knowledge about how I feel, how what I need to do. Maybe I don't know. I need to take in some medicine. I don't know. So the first is very important to assist with a specialist. And in the other hand, individually, we can do some things for help us. I don't know what is it. I don't remember now the word. But it's very important to have a diagnosis to say what we need to do and what is the level of depression or the problem or the sadness that we have. It's very important. And again, it's important to communicate with our friends or family or couple. It's very, very, very important to say what happened.
Yes, actually, we have this topic before about the bad use of words. So we are using like more commonly, like we are like, I'm in depression, like I'm of depression. Everybody is using this, like start like a boom, use this word, and exactly, it's like we really don't know if we are on that stage. So we have to go to the specialist to know if we are in depression. And then on the sense of responsibility, here that Luis was question was like what we can do, like maybe make this support that you said, like everybody always have hear them. And I think this is a connection with the next question, because here Sophia is asking, what can we do to enter in a life of young people? Sometimes it's very difficult to be next to them. And also says that thank you for the topic. But I think that we can like join these two questions about, well, we have to be, like you mentioned, we have to be there, we have to hear them. We don't have to judge, because sometimes they're going to be afar from us and we
Yes.
cannot help.
And I think
Yes.
One thing that is very important is to remember when we were adolescents, because sometimes when we grow up, uh, forgot this stage, how we were in this moment, what we needed in this moment when we were adolescents, and this is I think a key for to understand what happened with our young people, with the adolescents, and with the need, with the feel. Just remember how we were when we are adolescents. This is a very important thing.
Yes, it's really true because yes, I remember when I was in adolescence, like I didn't want, for example, me, like didn't want to ask me if my parents or somebody asked me, what is going on? What are you? Why you are like that? What's happening with you? It's like we never talk or we say another thing. It's like the approach to the young people has to be another way. Like you mentioned before, like, well, if the young people like to play football, well, we can ask and try to get approach with this topic, or maybe like the music, or maybe start a conversation in a specific topic. Because I wanted to ask this, for example, that you was working on in prison with the young people. And in this situation is I don't know, they are inside of the prison, so they cannot do the things that normally like to do outside. So how was the approach with them? What they can do inside of the prison and start to like it, or what? How was the process with them?
Yes, in fact, was difficult for the environment, for the conditions about or their situations. But I want to tell you that all the people, all the adolescents have one thing that they are interested. Maybe, yes, like you said, they were in the prison. What happened? No? Maybe they like to go to the concerts. I don't know. But this institution is specialized to give all the tools or the yes for the young people. And I am one thing of I doing with them, it's are to speak with them, like you said, speak with them about other things. Maybe appear that these things or this talking about weather, about I don't know, where I don't know. Um,
And you, for example, like, oh, do
yes,
you know
a
that what's
new.
going on about
This
uh,
looks like it's not important, but this is the start to to do a relation, a confident relation with the adolescents. It's the first, because if, like you said, if I approach to the adolescent and I ask, what happened with you? Tell me what's your problem. What do you do? Uh,
it's
you
like, no, I
think?
don't have problems. You have
Yes,
problems. That's
exactly.
going to be the answer
Yes, yes,
for
yes.
them.
Yes, we need to observe the adolescents, the young people, for to know how to approach with them.
Yes, yes, it's interesting because I remember in my experience in working in vulnerable sector, it happens the same. They are not in prison, but the approach is really careful from them. For example, is if I go there and we are going to do an activity, it's like the first question, the majority of the time, is like, who are you to came here to say what we have to do? That's the thing. It's like, well, it's like here is not a school. We have not the obligation to do this. So in this way, we are going to approach with them. thinking which way we are going to work with them in the way to give the abilities or the strategies to deal with their problems in their life, but also with something that is important for them, and also happens there on prison. And well, we don't have more questions. I don't know if you want to add something. I just want to add, like, we have to see the positive way of the things, like the self-regeneration, the regeneration of the people. Is like to see like an opportunity of change, that opportunity of crisis, and this crisis that we are living now. We have to see through the common problems. So, Miriam, I don't know if do you want to add something before to
No, only
finish?
that I think I want to add that talking about these issues or subjects, it's is important for closer to reality and help us uh, to work and confront this type of situations. And the most important, I think, is to help the young people for to through this stage in a healthy form for helping adults in a some moment or some point in their lives.
And I just want to ask one more question. Like you said before, like some days before, like, do you like it? That you really like it to work with young people?
Yes, yes,
Why?
I really like because I think this stage of human development is perfect to changing because all the energy that the young people have is it's incredible because maybe like adult you think no it's this thing it's not possible no we can do that we can do this and the young people no yes we can yes we can do so this energy this thinking about young people that have the young people it's the gasoline for to move for to do for I don't know I like and not enjoy to work with these people yes.
Well, thanks so much with this. I think this is the perfect ending. That's why that's a positive thing always. So thanks so much, Mia. Thanks so much,
Thank
everybody.
you.